Hey, I know that this video is very fuzzy, but I don't know what else to say. I am wanting to discuss an issue that has come to pass recently in my life and the life of some of my family members. And I really want people's opinions on this. And I am not trying to be ugly or judgmental or sarcastic or ignorant. I really and sincerely and truly want to understand a concept that seems to be prevalent when it comes to having a misunderstanding or a disagreement with people, and those people come together and supposedly try to come to a happy medium, or maybe to have a sense of resolution, maybe conflict resolution. And as is always seemingly the case, I'm not going to judge every situation. People seem to allow their common sense to be overridden with emotion, which, we're all emotional. God has made us emotional. Many facets of our personality are distinguished by so many things, hereditary factors, environmental factors, mental, intelligence, maturity level. And I believe there's also hidden avenues within our personality that are unseen, such as, when you're attracted to another person. Why would you be attracted to one person and not another? Say, regarding a relationship situation. Sometimes there's a chemistry, they call it. Well, chemistry, as far as human beings, it's an invisible factor that cannot actually be seen or touched, but it can definitely be felt. It can be, maybe, like I said, not visibly seen, but there is a viable connection that is truly as real as the four senses. Okay, I don't know if any of this is making sense, but if I sound a little weak, it's because I've been sick for the past couple of weeks. But I want to understand that when people have a disagreement of sorts, and let's just say involving our children, our kids. And I really like and enjoy talking about kids. Kids are just absolutely awesome. Really, they are. And somewhere along the way, we lose that sense of magic as we grow older. And the flexibilities of our personalities and our experiences are often dimmed by prejudices and past experiences, and maybe also colored by, the type of people we associate with, etc. But, I want to fully understand about the racial thing. Now, when I was growing up, I remember when I lived in Pennsylvania and I went to school. Back then, we used to walk to school, and I was pretty young. I was probably about 6 years old, I guess. And I would, walk to school by myself. Now, parents won't even let kids, stay at the bus stop unless they're supervised somehow or another. I mean, I remember walking to school by myself in first grade. I remember when I got older and I lived in Rhode Island, I used to walk to the bus stop in 4 feet of snow. And, and back then the mini skirts were in style, and, I didn't have anything to cover my legs because, I was wearing a skirt that was, clean up to my thigh as a young teenager. But anyway, parents were not quite so protective maybe then, because back then things weren't quite as scary maybe. Maybe they things did happen back then, but we had more freedom as children to roam and play and do whatever, from morning until dusk. And parents never had to worry about checking up on us. As soon as the street lights turned on, it was time to go home. And even then, we would still manage to stay outside and sit on the front porch or sit on the lawn or whatever. But anyway, I said all this to say, not getting off on a tangent, but my very, 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 very first remembrance as a young child was, and I'm tearing up because this is very sensitive to me, because I don't understand. I just don't understand so many things, it seems. And I'm 62, so, I'm still trying to understand so many things. But when I was a kid, my very first friend was a little black girl. Okay, I'm obviously white, and she was black. Now, I didn't know that she was classified as black or a child of color or any of that kind of stuff. I mean, those things in my mind as a child, it just, she was a human being. She was a friend. She was someone I liked. And I can remember holding hands in first grade with this little girl walking down the hall. And race and color and social status and all of that stuff never came into play in that situation. I guess we were just too young to really know that she was a child of color and I was a Caucasian. I don't know. And I remember going to this little girl's house, and her grandmother was a very frail, elderly, sweet elderly lady. I mean, she was very elderly, and she was the first person to ever talk to me about God and about Jesus. And I remember that so well. Just absolutely one of my most fondest, life-changing memories for me. And I said all that to say, when I was growing up in Rhode Island, the racial thing was just not evident for me there either. My father was in the Navy, and he had no prejudice in his body whatsoever. I think my mother did, but I didn't find that out until later, when a friend of my dad's came to the house to see him, and he was a man of color, and my mother appeared to be very, very uncomfortable, even though she invited him in and everything. Between the two of them, I mean, neither one of them were comfortable. I think he was uncomfortable because my mom was uncomfortable. So again, I never had any qualms about color. And like I said, my dad was a very nice, friendly guy. Everybody and his mother was his friend, and it didn't matter who they were, Oriental, black, white, whatever. And I also remember as a teenager, there was a couple that lived across the way that they were an interracial couple. She was white, he was black, and he had a band, and I remember he sang that song. They were doing practice, and they were singing that song, Crimson and Clover. Oh my God, I think when I sat there and I listened to it, I could feel the music literally inside my bones, of course, because they had the amplifiers on in there. And I mean, it was a live, musical setting. And this black guy sang that song, Crimson and Clover, and he had such an awesome voice. And I just remember trembling with amazement, I guess, because it was so, it just went right through my blood. The song did, and to this day it's one of my favorite songs because of that memory. But anyway, she was pregnant, and she was white, and they were persecuted in the neighborhood, and somebody killed their dog out of spite because of the fact that they were interracial. And I remember years later reading about an article in People magazine that I am almost 100% sure that it was the same couple. And by then, of course, I was an adult and I was married when I read this article. But anyway, I'm saying all this crazy mess to say I don't understand the racial thing. Why is it that when people interact and there seems to be a sense of disagreement, or maybe there's a misunderstanding, that race always has to come into play? Why? Why is it that it matters whether you're black or you're white or you're Hispanic or you're Oriental. I mean, I know we have cultures, different cultures, which I think is awesome because everybody has their own unique flavor to offer society based on the way they were raised and their culture and that type of thing. But, what is the big deal about, okay, I disagree with you about something and it's a white thing, okay, or you disagree with me because it's a black thing. I mean, and even the terminology and the language and the lingo that's used is like I'm sort of out of the power curve. So certain terms that say a woman of color or a man of color would say, I might not quite get it. Like the saying, you don't have to be so extra about things. Well, I didn't know what that meant. What do you mean by extra? But I guess that's a saying that people say nowadays, and it's a modern term. And it's not exclusive to a race, but, just in other words, there's just certain things certain lingo, certain explanations, certain wordplay that people have based on their culture. And I think it's fascinating. I want to learn, what other cultures practice and believe. And, and personally, I love Black culture. And when I say that, I don't mean that offensively, but even as a child, like I said, I never embraced prejudice. I never looked at color, and I hadn't been exposed to, like, say, Mexicans too much or Hispanics. I hadn't been exposed to Oriental, but I had been exposed to people of color. But when I moved to the southern region, I really got exposed. But I love that it just seems to me that people of color are flamboyant in that the way they express themselves, and they're so real. They're not really. Gosh, I don't even know how to put it. They just act so awesome sometimes, and I get such a kick out of the realness, of the ethnic cultures sometimes, and I love. I have a grandchild that I call my grandchild in love, who is Chinese, full-blooded Chinese. And I absolutely love him to pieces. I mean, oh my God, he's gorgeous. And his family is just a beautiful family. And they have their own unique way of doing things. And I try to pay attention to what is important to them. And I try to be polite and try to interpret and practice some of the things like, removing your shoes before you go into somebody's house, and, they do that when they come to my house. The whole family takes off their shoes. Okay. It's just a culture thing, but it's a sign of respect. So I do the same thing when I go to their house. But I have, 2 Hispanic grandchildren. They're half Hispanic and half white. I have 2 Lumbee Indian grandchildren, that are half white, half Lumbee Indian. I have a nephew that is, Spanish and Black. And I have a niece that is mixed. She's Black and white. And I have all nationalities in my family, okay? So I don't get this racial thing. So anyway, maybe somebody can explain to me, why when there's an issue that race always has to come into play, I'm not ethnocentric. I don't think my way is the best way in the whole wide world. And I'm not also, is it called xenocentric, where you think other people's ways are better than your ways? I just feel like everybody can contribute to what makes this world what it is. And most of the time I like to think the world's a good place, but sometimes it's just not a good place. It seems like many negatives come out more so than the positives. And I think that's why a lot of people are depressed and they get on antidepressants, or they drink, or, they find other outlets to try to cover up and camouflage the pain of life, But anyway, to get to the point is, when you have an issue with someone, I don't understand why it has to be a white thing or a Black thing or Oriental thing or whatever, or even between 2 people of the same race. When you're discussing a point of interest or you're in disagreement about something, you shouldn't have to bring in personal insinuations and personal um, insults that jab at someone that is totally irrelevant to what the argument is about. I've had people say to me, well, you know, since when have you never had any money? When I happened to be involved in a situation that I had to buy my superior a gift, and I didn't want to participate. So I was accused of being stingy with my money. Okay, that was irrelevant to the fact. Okay, my reasoning for not wanting to buy a gift for a superior had nothing to do whether I had money or not. It was my personal choice. Maybe I didn't feel as inclined towards the superior as other people did. Maybe I didn't like that superior as much. And I would feel like I was being hypocritical if I was to contribute towards a cause that I just didn't want to participate in. That's my option as an adult and as a person. Why would someone come at me and say, well, you're just being stingy with your money? When do you not have any money? That's attacking me as a person and attacking my personal choices. Has nothing to do with, the situation as far as, if I say I don't want to participate, that should be a good enough reason without being attacked by someone. And I know this is turning into a lengthy video, and maybe it doesn't make sense to you, but I'm really, truly trying to comprehend, the nuances of classifying people based on their race. I mean, I'm so tired of it. I'm tired of people, criticizing and just being downright evil about how they interact. One lady said in a video that I just heard the other day pertaining to a situation that is taking place right now in the life of one of my family members, is that all white women act like they're victims. And this was said by a woman of color, an educated, supposedly educated woman of color who has her own business. And I thought to myself, the person, she's trying to justify and say, well, I'm not being racist and I'm not being prejudiced and I'm not being, ignorant, but white women need to stop playing like they're the victim. I don't understand what that comment means. Now, I don't want to go into too much detail because I don't want this thing to be misinterpreted as a retaliation. But this person supposedly injected this video, and they went on and on and on about, white women being prejudiced and this, that, and the other, and being the victim. And then she also made the comment, "Your president," which was referring to Trump. Like, if you were white, you voted for Trump. I guess. I don't know. I mean, I really just don't know. Now, I personally voted for Obama. I liked Obama, but, maybe I'm ignorant. Maybe I didn't know all the facts. I really don't care because it's my human right to vote for whom I wish to vote for. And if you hate me for voting for Obama, I'm sorry, but if I didn't vote for Obama, someone would likely come up and say, well, you didn't vote for him because he's a man of color. That's not true. I don't know. Maybe somebody can explain to me. Now, I collect Reborns, and I absolutely love Reborns of color, AA babies. I have Caucasian babies, but I also have AA babies, and I just think they're absolutely beautiful. If I'm a prejudiced sort of person, why would I take hard-earned money, okay, that I work very hard for, that I am not like a career-oriented person. I'm not a nurse. I'm not a scientist. I'm just your average Joe Blow girl. I don't make a lot of money, but yet I'm going to go spend money on an AA baby and love that AA baby and coo over that baby and take care of that doll and appreciate that doll's features and color and just, enjoy the baby, like I do my other Reborns. Why would I go to that level if I was someone who was prejudiced or racist or whatever. I just don't get it. And I have found when I try to be close to people of color over the years, I always ended up getting hurt. I never pull back from the relationship. If nothing else, I truly, truly loved and cared for that person until they showed me that deep, deep inside they were ashamed that they were friends with me because I was white, or I don't know, they would just turn on me. And yet I worked with one girl for over 3 years, and I truly, truly had a hard time dealing with her. But then I learned to surpass a lot of the negatives, and I actually loved her and cared for her, and I tried to mentor her. She was a woman of color, and I was a Caucasian. She was a lot younger than me, and I would always try to steer her in a positive direction. I always tried to lift her up. I always tried to encourage her. It didn't matter to me if she was black or white or Oriental. I just basically cared for her. But that girl hurt me terribly, and I don't know, I don't make friends very easily. I really, really don't. And I think that we would have never even associated with each other had it not been for the fact that we had to work together. But even though we worked together, I still cared for this person very, very, very much. I did a lot of things that, random acts of kindness, and I don't want to brag on it because I don't want to be misunderstood here, but someone please help me understand these barriers and why, people, I don't know. It's just a crazy world. Help me out. Help me understand. Okay? Anyway, enough said on this. I'm going to close. I think I'm just being highly emotional today because I haven't been feeling good. I'm just not sure what to do, what to think. If somebody has an answer for me, do tell. I'm waiting. I'm eager. I want to learn and understand. Thanks for your time. Bye.